Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, worshippers of all ages, welcome to YouTube. My name is SeaRaptor, and today we're bringing you a first look at Tier VIII Italian battleship Vittorio Veneto. Tier VIII is a very busy place for battleships. At present, every nation who has a battleship in the tier has at least one other premium option to choose from, except the Regia Marina. Of course, premium battleship Roma was the first Italian battleship added to World of Warships, and she's been all alone there for a while. I don't count the Azure Lane ship because it is literally a clone of Roma, okay? But no longer. Meet Tier VIII Italian tech tree battleship Vittorio Veneto. Veneto was actually the lead ship of this class, so it's nice to see her finally coming into the game. So let's have a look around and learn a little more about the ship. Now, we're going to spend a lot of time in this video comparing Veneto to Roma. Roma's been in the game client for a long time. She's very much a known quantity at this point. So that's going to enable us to make some comparisons about what is or isn't different, okay? Plus, if you have a Roma and you want to go look at the ship, you're going to see pretty much a lot of similarities. So let's start off. Health pool, 64,800 hit points. This is just a smidge below Roma and solidly in the middle of the pack at Tier 8. This is a nice change, right? Tier 6's Andrea Doria and Tier 7's Francesco Caracciolo were both very much on the low end of the health pools for their tier, but that is no longer the case here with Veneto. 38% torpedo protection is solidly above average. It's not best in tier. The existence of a Magi in the American South Dakota class ships pretty much ensures that, but this is quite solid. Armor-wise, the exterior armor scheme has a lot of similarities to Caracciolo one tier down. Most notably, you have this solid turret-to-turret armor belt of 375 millimeters. She has 32 millimeter extremities here on the bow and the forward deck, 45 millimeters of deck armor through the center of the ship. Now, unlike Caracciolo, she doesn't have that ultra-thick casemate armor. You see here, this plating is only 70 millimeters compared to, I think it was 220 one tier down at Tier 7. So, Veneto will eat full pins through this plating far more regularly. She does have this 130 millimeter plate on the forward belt, but it doesn't go all the way to the bow, so she can get slapped through the nose by some of the super high caliber battleships she's going to meet in her matchmaking bracket, like a Musashi or Yamato or an Ohio, something like that, right? Now, on Doria and Caracciolo, we talked about the crazy small citadel space, and you kind of see some of that here in the lower end of the ship. However, Veneto and Roma both have a much wider citadel space through the center of the ship, just behind the belt. So also she loses the turtleback. Let me put the actual belt armor back up. Okay, so for starters, we talked about this on Doria, we talked about this on Caracciolo. There was that turtleback in here. That is now gone, okay? What it's been replaced with is kind of this spaced, almost French-style spaced armor scheme, right? You've got the belt, the thick belt, and you've got this air gap, and you've got this 40 millimeter inner citadel plate. Now, Veneto is going to be hard enough to pen while angled. I've played enough Roma to know that, right? But this plating is not going to save her from a broadside slap. I've taken 45,000 point salvos from North Carolinas that I just turned broadside in front of. And there's one on the channel somewhere where it's like I'm sailing along and I got all this HP and I show broadside of this North Carolina and he just whacks me and almost kills me in one salvo, right? So this is not going to be enough to save you when you're flat broadside. You can see the citadel space, we talked about that, and the torpedo bulges. Like, it's you know, if you've got a Roma, you can look into this armor scheme. It is a little more traditionally vulnerable, but one of the things that I like about this ship is that the armor scheme overall is pretty resilient, right? The central deck armor does not eat a lot of full pens from IFHE light cruisers. You'll get some in the superstructure, of course, but the deck won't eat them. You will eat them from some heavy cruisers, but not others. The extremities, of course, will take quite a bit. So the Roma in general, and I think I'm going to talk in terms of Roma because I've played that ship as recently as just a few hours ago last night. But Veneto's armor scheme is actually pretty sturdy, and so there's a lot to like here. Maneuverability and concealment. One of the defining characteristics of Roma, and the premium Roma, is that she is almost the stealthiest battleship in Tier 8, right? Now, she's certainly the stealthiest one worth playing anyway. I'm looking at you, Monarch, okay? But that stealth is something that Vittorio Veneto here gives up a little bit, okay? You see there's 16.2 on the surface. A full stealth rig gets this ship down to 12.7 kilometer surface detection, which is not bad, but is still not the sub-12 numbers that we see out of Roma and Monarch. Indeed, Vladivostok, Odin, and North Carolina are all stealthier in the tier than Veneto here. It's an asset, but it's not a defining one. In terms of speed and handling, Veneto and Roma are effectively identical. 30 knots, 810 meter turning circle, these are the same. Veneto's actually a little more responsive on the rudder. You see here, 15 and a half seconds. That compares to, I think, 20 and change for Roma. So that's about it here. If you've driven a Roma, you know what you're getting into, right? Like, this ship is going to handle basically the same. Main battery. Now, as we discussed in Caracciolo's video, Veneto's main battery is the same guns that the line has starting at Tier 7, and the same guns they're going to have at Tier 9 and Tier 10. These are the same guns mounted by premium sister Roma. There are two major differences. One is that you see there, Veneto gets access to semi-armor-piercing rounds instead of Roma's high explosive ones. Okay? The other notable, significant difference is that Veneto's Sigma is lower, meaning she will throw less consistent shell groupings into her dispersion ellipse. Given the potent nature of SAP shells in general, that's not really all surprised. I'm not really surprised to hear that, right? What I really like about this ship over Roma, though, is that Roma's HE is so bad that you really only use it in, like, dire situations, or when you just, like, someone just flatly refuses to show you any kind of angle. You kind of have no choice, right? Veneto here has more options because of the SAP. Her AP shells will perform the same as Roma's do, though. So in a lot of circumstances, you have to remember these shells, these AP shells, have too much penetration. You need to be looking for stout battleship broadsides or slightly angled cruisers to hurl them at. If you throw them at purely broadside cruisers, more than likely you're just going to rack up a whole bunch of overpins. Like Caracciolo, which armor type you have loaded is going to heavily dictate who you're shooting at in a given engagement. Similar to Roma, you see there towards the bottom, 18.1 kilometer main battery range. That is on the low side for the tier, so you have to move up in a timely fashion to get her guns into action. Don't dawdle if you're looking for early shots, especially on larger maps. One thing of note, you see there the alpha damage on the SCP shells is shown as 14,050 damage. Wargaming announced just this morning that they're going to be cutting that down to 12,500. So testing process, doing its job, tweaking these ships already. As far as main battery firing angles go, Veneto can engage all of her turrets at about 31 degrees off the bow. Again, she has the same turret angles as Roma, so that's not too shabby. The turret angles are less forgiving when she is trying to kite. She can only get all of her turrets engaged off the stern at 41 degrees. So if you're kiting, just be aware that you're in a more vulnerable position from your armor. You're more likely to take full pins at that angle. You're going to have to kind of learn to wiggle your butt around and that sort of thing, okay? So her turret angles just in general are better suited to pushing rather than kiting. Now, like the other Italian battleships we've looked at so far, Vittorio Veneto has a lot of secondary guns. She's got a whole host of these little single mount 90 millimeters, and she's got 4 of these triple mount 152 millimeter guns. Just like all those other ships as well, they have a really pathetically artificially gimped range of about 4.5 kilometers. So, I mean, yay. Roma's weird, right? Roma has 5.3 kilometer secondary range on these same guns. Basically the same package, right? So, I don't know. Don't rely on these, right? If you find yourself in a brawl, you might get some damage out of them. You might get some fires or something, but certainly don't expend time buffing them via captain skills or upgrades, that sort of thing. I don't feel like it's worth it. A defense. Well, of course, similarities here to her premium sister Roma continue. Both ships have a nearly identical anti-aircraft suite. She puts up six flak bursts in her outer ring, which sounds respectable until you remember that, oh yeah, that outer ring is only 4.6 kilometers because Italy! Yay! Other than that, it's essentially the same AA suite. It's decent enough for, certainly when she sees Tier 6 carriers, Tier 8 carriers will land strikes, and she will shoot down some planes. It's not a bad AA suite, but yeah, you're not gonna kill lots of planes with this ship. That's not what she does. It irritates me, actually, because you look at the numbers on these guns, and you realize that Italian anti-aircraft armament might be pretty good if it didn't have this artificially gimped, pathetic short range, which is just a frustrating wargaming design choice that I can't understand. So, oh well. C'est la vie. Consumables. Let's back out here one and go look in consumables. So you're going to find damage control party, repair, And for the first time in the line, I think aircraft facilities, yes, she does have a choice between catapult and fighter plane. By the way, I recommend spotting aircraft. That gives you the opportunity. If you need something more than that 18-kilometer base range, you can push a button and get it for a little while. That's worth it. Now, what is noteworthy is Veneto here is the first Italian battleship in the tech tree to get access to the fancy crawling smoke that the cruisers and that the Italian cruiser line and Tier 9 premium destroyer Paolo Emilio have. It presents her with some potentially interesting redeployment and movement options that other Tier 8 battleships don't have access to. I mean, for example, earlier we pointed out her gun angles are far better for supporting a push than drawing out a flank by kiting an enemy team. Okay, so... But sometimes, right, pushes go bad, don't they, right? So what would a North Carolina or Vladivostok give for the ability to smoke up and turn around and disengage from a bad situation without having to expose the entire broadside of their ship for 1 or 2 incoming salvos? Veneto can do that. So there are bound to be other clever tactical uses of the smoke that I'm not going to get bogged down talking about here. Only to point out that while it's active, you want to hold your fire because, I'm going to go over here and show you this, while you're firing these guns in smoke, your detection is 14.9 kilometers. So if you're smoked and you're trying to use this to reposition, keep your finger off the trigger. If you fire, everybody's going to know where you are. Kind of defeats the purpose, right? Okay? So yeah, I mean, that's just a quick look around. There are not a ton of differences between Vittorio Veneto and Roma, right? There are some, obviously, most of them in the main battery. There are some minor differences in the secondary battery. The armor scheme is basically the same. So yeah, I really like Roma. I feel like Roma is one of the more underrated battleships at Tier 8. I understand why people don't care for the ship. I get it, right? I've played enough of the ship that I get it. However, I still feel like she has a bit of a bad rap. I like the addition of SAP over Roma. Roma's HE, as I said earlier, is all but unusable. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but by and large, you just don't fire it because it's just not very good. The SAP shells here give Vittorio Veneto a lot more tactical options in terms of her main battery, and I like that because there are times that the Roma's AP is incredibly frustrating. Vittorio Veneto here can push the button, swap over to SAP, and have something that is hopefully a little more consistent. I hate the Sigma nerf. All right, the Sigma on this ship is 1.6 versus 1.9 for Roma, so she is going to throw less consistent patterns, but I understand it when you pair it with the SAP. I get, SAP is a pretty potent ammo type, so certainly in testing, they want to err on the side of caution a little bit and see how things shake out. The smoke is going to be interesting to try. I've long felt that Roma, like I said earlier, is very underrated, so I'm really curious to see kind of what tactics and everything get invented with the smoke to kind of apply to this ship that, of course, Roma can't do. So we'll just have to see what the community comes up with, because you guys are always surprising me with the crap that comes out of your mouths in the game. Trust me. Anyways. All right, guys. Hope you enjoyed that. Quick first look at Tier 8's Vittorio Veneto. Wash your hands. Be safe out there. Have a great weekend, and I'll catch you next time.